Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. We're really delighted that you're here and joining us. My name is Cheryl James. I'm an admissions coach here at iPEC, and we are delighted to have our special guest, Deb Baas, joining us from across the pond, which we're really delighted to have you here. She is going to share her amazing story on how she came to coach training and has taken this back to her place of employment in a very, very profound way. So I'm really excited for her to be able to share these insights with you. And before we get started, we really have no prepared material. This is really to answer any questions that are on your hearts and minds. Deb has so graciously offered to do that for us. So hello, Deb. Welcome.
Hi Cheryl. How are you? Thank you for inviting me.
It's our pleasure. And before we open up the session to start asking questions of Deb, I just wanted to share a little bit of the logistics with all of you. If you're joining us via the Zoom link, please feel free to type your questions in to the Q&A box. There's a place there, and there's also a chat. So either way, we'll be able to see your questions and make sure that Deb is able to get those for you answered. If you're joining us via Facebook Live, please feel free to type in your questions into the comment section, and we'll make sure we get those answered. So we want to make sure that we have everybody getting their questions answered. I think we would love to also give you just a quick gentle reminder that we're welcoming all your questions that have to do with Deb's experience going through the program, how she's been able to take these concepts back to her place of employment. But if you have real logistical questions about the program itself, we'll let you know at the end how to get those questions answered, okay? So without further ado, I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Deb's background. She's not only an iPEC grad, but she is the Global Operational Excellence Manager at Shell. And she came to the program with a goal of taking these concepts back to her place of employment. And because of the way that she grew as a person and the new skills and tools that she learned in coach training, she now holds her team accountable in ways that make them feel very empowered to contribute. She fosters these win-win connections with her teams, even in stressful situations, and people have really taken notice. So since she started the iPEC program, she's been asked to develop a leadership development program for new leaders in her company. She coaches senior executives, she leads workshops, and she has been asked to join the internal coaching pool, which is fantastic. But it doesn't stop there. She has been asked by 30-somethings to coach her. She coaches couples outside the workplace, and because of all of her passion and her expertise, the opportunities just seem to keep rolling in on a day-to-day basis. So we are honored to have you, Deb. Thank you so much for joining us.
That was quite an intro. Thank you very much.
I'm honored to be here. I want to learn from you as well, so this is wonderful. So thank you so much for joining us. So what I'd love to do right now is I would love to open this up. Please start typing in your questions into the Q&A box, into the chat box, and we'll get started and we can start answering any of the questions that are coming to mind. One of the questions that, in just talking with you about this, Deb, just briefly before we started, you said you had made a real conscious effort and a conscious decision to not take this and become an entrepreneur. You knew you wanted to take this back to your place of employment. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Because how I signed up with iPEC, basically, it was actually it was my former boss who got me introduced into iPEC. So I tagged along with him to go to London to do the LPT training. And at that point in time, I just got a new role. I just been assigned this role. So I was very passionate about the work that I was doing. I like what I'm doing in Shell. I like working with my team. And therefore, I had no desire really to go off and start my own business. The conscious decision that I made was that as I was on this journey in iPEC and learning the modules and going through, learning the tools, I could see so much potential to take what I was learning, bring it back to corporate, and in the environment that I'm working, which is a very diverse environment because my team and the people that I work with, being a global operations excellence manager, I work across different time zones, different countries, dealing with a lot of diversity, and there's just so much potential there to take everything that I was learning and do something very meaningful and positive with it here. So that was a very conscious decision. Some people ask me, why don't you start your own business on the side? But there's so much to do here, and small steps. When you see the small steps that you're taking, they suddenly just start to, people just notice. They notice you. They notice the change that you're bringing to the organization. More and more opportunities became available, and I took them, and that's as you described in the beginning. The latest one, just really developing that leadership training, which I'm delivering next week in Kuala Lumpur and Manila.
How nice. And I love that you can speak to the opportunity to take this back to corporate, because there are a lot of people that know that there's application and they really don't want to be entrepreneurs. So there really are a couple ways to apply this training to really make an impact. So that's wonderful. We have some questions rolling in for you. Maria is asking, why, Deb, did you choose this program over other programs out there? We know that there are lots of coach training programs. So what was it about iPEC that made you decide to pursue this program?
So I think what I really liked about iPEC was the whole energy concept. So sort of applying and looking at the whole energy, the 7 levels of energy, and recognizing that some people may not know quite how that works just yet. But it spoke to me because the energy, the whole energy piece, and working with energy around people, I can see how sometimes when you're coaching, other coaching models, they will stick to very static models, which there's nothing wrong with that. And they will use those models and those tools quite effectively. But what I liked about iPEC was it gave something different, something new, something that wasn't yet really, I'd never really heard about it. And it just intrigued me. And I thought, well, I'll go along, I'll do the LPT, and I'll see what this is all about. And after 3 days in LPT, there was just no way that I wasn't going to continue on this course. It just shifted me completely, understanding how the energy works and seeing the potential of being able to work with energy. And I see that as well, because sometimes even when I'm coaching people today, they can get stuck. And in that situation, you can coach the energy around them. So it feels less invasive. If they're not quite ready to make some of those steps that they want to take, you can coach the energy around the situation. And that really helps people to move forward. And I would say that's a friend of mine did another coaching course here in the Netherlands with me. And we go on long walks together. And we sometimes compare notes, and I can just see the benefits of iPEC way, way far above the course that she did, which is all right, which is a credited course here in the Netherlands. But the whole energy aspect, I think, is a big advantage.
I love that. And oftentimes it's interesting because I also have a corporate background. So oftentimes when I'm talking to students about the concept of energy, they get a bit nervous because sometimes they can think energy means, magic crystals and robes and things like that. And so it would be interesting to get your perspective on how that concept of energy plays in the corporate world.
Yeah, okay. So working in the corporate world, so as I said, I work in a very diverse environment, and I have my team, I work with different teams. And as you often see in corporate, you can see a lot of negativities, particularly when you're managing change. So there's an awful lot of change in the corporate world.
Yes.
There's an awful lot of people who are very reluctant to change. They get very scared. It's all founded in fear of what the future is going to bring. And recognizing that energy, the energy that's around the fear, that's around the negativity, you're able to coach people to help them to make a choice as to how they want to show up in this change that they're going through. And what you're able to do is you're able to show them how they can make a choice, if they're willing to make a choice, and how responding from different energy levels can make a big difference to the way they show up in their work on a day-to-day basis, to the way they are able to not take things personally when they're going through change and reorganizations, and they can see more opportunity that's out there for them. So you can really shift people up. Just by using the energy, so that they can open themselves up to accepting change, and not only accepting it, but also seeing the opportunity that's out there for them.
Yeah, I love that you use the words, how they show up, right? Because that's what the energy is about, how you're showing up and either reacting or choosing to respond in certain ways, right? And so it's really great that you put it in those terms, because sometimes I think it's just about being able to explain it in the corporate environment in words that they understand, right? And that they will resonate with. So that's awesome.
Yes.
We have another question coming in from Lori, and she said, is all of the work done for iPEC's program done online, or was it user-friendly?
Oh, I found it very user-friendly. It's not all done online. Of course, you have your face-to-face sessions as well as part of the training, which are wonderful, absolutely wonderful. And you meet some really, really dynamic and wonderful people, and you go on this journey together, and you build friendships and relationships which are going to be there for life. So that's another advantage of going through this program, I have to say. But no, so not everything's done online. Yes, all of the, as you can see, I'm not a millennial, so you can visibly see that. But no, if I can do it, anybody can do it. There are some stuff online. You have great connections with one another. You do your training, your peer training with one another. You can connect on Skype. Different people have different options as to how they want to connect. There are different ways that you can use to sort of connect with one another during the training. But no, it's and of course you have all the training materials on the iPEC. It's the end of the day for me. I'm getting at the end of my
portal, right?
Yeah, you have all the iPEC training materials which are available to you online. You can choose when you want to download them. You can choose how you want to sort of really schedule your training to align with your work, with your day-to-day work. So when I started this, I'm a mom. My husband works abroad. I'm a manager in the corporate world. Very, very busy life. But I was able to structure my learning throughout the program in a way that was comfortable to me, and in a way that really allowed me to absorb all the materials as well. It wasn't just a case of reading something and thinking tick the box and move on. Some of this stuff is quite deep, and it will move you on a personal level as well, and it will shift you on a personal level. And sometimes you might have to go back and read things once or twice, because that's where you really derive the true meaning of what it is that you're actually learning through this process. And it's all very, very simple. And trust me, if I can do it, anybody can do it.
I love that. I love that. And like you said, that there's a lot of, a third of the program is done in person, right? So those sessions, and like you said, connecting with others and really being able to see it and feel it and taste it and get the feedback from the trainers really, really helps. And then it's that practice in between to help you get really proficient. So that's great. We have another question. Simone is asking, how difficult was it to go through the program and work full time? Because people ask that all the time. So if you could speak to that, that would be great.
Yeah, I think like anything else, if you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't feel like any effort whatsoever. So as I went through the program, obviously I'll tell you how I did it. So I started out by just booking time for myself and managing my own calendar and blocking the time to be able to meet the commitments of the program. However, I will say this, that I just loved what I was reading, and I ended up just going back and reading things. It was such an enjoyable experience. We developed WhatsApp groups with the group that I was going through the program with, and we would connect on WhatsApp. And it depends on sort of, you do need to plan it if you want to maximize, get the maximum out of it. I would recommend that you plan it, but it is doable. As I said, I have twins that were going through their final exams, needed a lot of support. I have a full-time job. I have a husband. I have a very busy social life, and I still managed to do it.
Yeah, and I love that. What you said was so profound, in that if it's something you enjoy, if it's something you really are interested in, it doesn't feel like a burden. I agree with you. I looked at it, those were the 5 hours of the highlight of my week. So exactly.
And in some weeks you might do 3 hours, another week you might do 6 hours. It just depends. That's the beauty of the program. You can sort of fit it in into your life when it suits you. And I remember sitting in the garden just reading things, on a lovely sunny day. It didn't feel like I was working or studying. It was just really, really interesting. One thing led to another, and before I knew it, 4 or 5 hours had gone, and I just sort of finished a couple of assignments, but without really realizing it, because I was very committed to what I was doing as well, and what I was reading and what I was learning was shifting me on a personal level. It just felt really powerful.
Love that. In fact, that dovetails so nicely into our next question. We have Katrina is asking, how did the training affect you on a personal level? If you could speak to
right. Okay. So, so I have been married to my husband for 33 years. Mm-hmm. He's Dutch, I'm English. And as with all relationships, you go through your ups and downs. And we've traveled a lot, lived in different countries. So, and had twins. And so, experience some stresses in life. And at this time in your relationship, you kind of come to kind of like a crossroads where you kind of like think, right, we're coming up to retirement. What's our retirement going to look like? What are we going to do when the kids leave home? And, I don't know, any background of anyone who's on the call, but a relationship of that length of time, you tend to take one another for granted. And the program really made me think about my values, about what was important for me. I thought I always understood that. And I will say that family has always been really important to me. But it took it to another level. It showed me how to have conversations with my husband, which were not always about my agenda, but what I wanted. My husband's pretty... he's not really a very communicative person. And so, I would be thinking, it's always me who starts these conversations and things like that. But the coaching gives you the skills and the tools to frame things up, ask the right questions, to get the best responses back that are going to help you to build the best relationships that you can have. It changed me with my relationships with my husband, with my children. My kids now are 24. Those of you who have children, letting go of children when you've been full on them as well is also difficult. It helped me to understand that process so I could have more open and transparent conversations with my kids who were ready to, leave the nest. It also, and I'll just share something very personal with this group as well. My daughter was 24. She chose to have a partner who is considerably older than her. He's 65. Now, the old me probably would have freaked out. I would have freaked out. I'm going to put my hands up there and just say I totally freaked out. In that experience and using the skills that I have from iPEC, I've been able to really coach and help the family dynamic around that pretty unique situation, her unique choices, but it's all about her. And that's really helped me to sort of really keep my family together. Her twin brother had a lot of questions around that as well. You can imagine what was coming up.
Right.
And the tools and the things that I've learned at iPEC, they've made such a difference to my ability to be able to have those conversations, not take things personally. We all judge, but also to understand where those judgments are coming from, and understand, where that's coming from, and again, making the choices based on what's important for you, but understanding that there is opportunity there as well to take those relationships even further. And relationships are, my view, relationships are probably one of the most important things, because whether you're in work, whether you're at home, whether you're with your friends, your colleagues, for me, everything centralizes around relationships. I'm not an IT person, and yet, I've built really strong, good relationships with my colleagues in IT. When I don't understand something, I can frame the questions up in a way, using my coaching skills, that they will give me what I need in the language that I need to hear it, because I don't speak IT. So having those coaching skills and learning and understanding how to frame up questions, how to acknowledge your own judgments and where they're coming from, being curious about what's on the other side, what are the other people experiencing, breaking down those barriers. It just makes all of the relationships so much meaningful, so much more powerful, and so much more enjoyable.
I love that. That's such a great answer, because oftentimes people think when they go through the training program, I'm going to learn these skills to be a great coach. But they don't realize the benefit of the personal growth and development that you experience through the process. And you've just given so many great examples on how it personally helped you, as well as we know that it's been really successful for you in your corporate environment. But boy, those were great examples. Thank you for that. That was wonderful. We have another question coming in from Janine. And she said, looking back now, is there anything you wished you had done differently while you were going through the course?
Ooh, no, because I believe that everything happens for a reason. So, no, I think I honestly can't think of anything that I would have done differently, except I would have done it earlier. If only iPEC had been around earlier,
Yes.
I would have done it earlier, because it's given me so much personally and professionally. I'm actually encouraging both my son and my daughter to perhaps, go through the iPEC training when they're both finishing their masters at the moment, because I think it brings so much value to you. And the earlier you can do it, I think the benefit, the investment you make now is you're going to get so much return on that investment for the rest of your life. And that's why I'm saying the only thing I'd do differently is I wish I'd done it earlier.
That's a great answer. I think that's a really, really great answer, that, you would have had these skills and things earlier in your life to make an impact even sooner. But that's a great answer. So thank you for that. Somebody is asking, Chris, as a retired person who's been a manager in healthcare and a rehabilitation professional, is this program and skill development applicable as a life coach? So do you...
Yeah, totally. One of the things that when we went into the program, when I started going through the program, we started talking about niches. And I remember one of the trainers, she said, your niche will find you. And that feels a bit odd, because you kind of think, well, I don't know, I can't see myself coaching senior executives, for example. I couldn't see myself perhaps coaching dentists, for example, or, But the strange thing is, and this is where you really do have to trust the process, the tools and the skills that you acquire by going through iPEC will allow you to coach in any scenario. And what I mean by that is, I'm in corporate. I get 30-something grads coming to me who have a kind of like, is this all there is? Now you could say, am I coaching them on life purpose? Am I coaching them on career? Am I coaching them on relationships? Am I coaching them on fear of failure, perfectionism? There's a whole spectrum of things that I could say I'm coaching those 30-somethings on. Health issues. I'm coaching people on relationship. I'm coaching as part of one of the execs that I'm coaching right now. We'll ask for some professional coaching, but what's come up during those sessions is some health issues. And she's also dealing with some grief. And the tools that I've learned through iPEC allow me to be able to coach her through. You can coach just about anything with these tools, and that's the truth. And some of my colleagues have gone through this program. I've gone into all different kinds of directions, and yeah, you can coach just about anything.
I love that, because what you've basically shown is that the skills themselves are transferable, right?
They
so
are absolutely
coaching an executive, you're coaching somebody on life purpose. It's the skills and techniques are all the same, and they have application. So those are great examples of how they really are transferable skills, which is great.
Yeah.
We have another question coming in from Linda, and she wants to know, do you have a coach that you work with regularly? Or do you feel like the training gave you the tools that you can coach yourself?
No, I don't have. I have a wonderful coaching network of friends. So as we went through the program, and I have obviously maintained those friendships as well. And I have 2 people, both coaches through iPEC, that coach me, that we meet up. We have drinks, we coach, we talk to one another. And if I need help, if I need some coaching, like with my daughter's partner,
yes,
you have to, it does push your buttons a little bit, yeah. So you sort of you're still a mother at the end of the day.
Right.
The emotion is there. So yeah, I definitely reached out to my friend Swati, who he helped me through that a lot, and basically just held the mirror up a lot of the things that I know, but sometimes you need that.
Absolutely. It's so funny because there are a lot of coaches that have coaches, right? And so there's those phases. But then, like you said, I do think that you form these bonds with people that you go through the training with. And I don't know if you have a mastermind group that you went, once you finish the training, a lot of times we form these little groups, right? And you help brainstorm with one another, and you coach one another. And so that's a way that people will stay and get some coaching through their colleagues and their peers as well,
Absolutely. And I think just to say as well, I think the sort of the alumni and the aftercare that iPEC offer post the training. I mean, we have the One Idea Away community, there are retreats, there are, we have a Facebook where we connect and share. So if you have a client and you're struggling, you're seeing something, a situation for the first time, you can pop that into the group. And, within an hour or two, you've got all different kinds of advice and support to help you to manage that situation with your client. If you find yourself thinking, oh, crikey, this is pushing my buttons. So let's see what others might want to say about this. And I think that's also one of the benefits. And I just want to highlight as well that that's a unique differentiation with some of the other coaching training programs that are out there. I think what iPEC does, and I'm saying this because I know a couple of people who are coaches who've gone through different coaching programs, and they don't have anywhere near what iPEC provide, is sort of the extra support afterwards in terms of an alumni, the retreats, the One Idea Away, the podcasts, the articles that you can read, the sharing. And if you're willing to engage in all of that, it's really a continual growth process. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop when you finish the program. It doesn't stop when you take your clients. The support that you have around you, the articles, the knowledge sharing, the webinars, it is a continuous growth that you continually grow on this journey. And that in itself enhances you, sharpens your skills, and makes you a better coach at the end of the day.
Well, it was like you could see the question coming in. Ollie, a lot of you had just asked about that. That's so funny. She had just typed in, what kind of support do you receive after graduation? And you said it beautifully. So it's like you can see these questions. You're right. You're tracking with the folks. So that's great. So yes, you spoke beautifully to all of that networking. And you're right. It is very different than other schools, what is offered out there. And I always say, you're joining a community. We're not the once and done, right? It definitely is a community feel, and it's great that you're taking advantage of those resources as well.
And just to share with you as well, some of the stuff that I did for the leadership program, I did go in and look at some of those articles and took some inspiration from my colleagues in the iPEC community for inspiration as well. So that's a practical example of how that really helps you to produce something of your own.
Yes, that's wonderful. So we have another question coming in from Michael that says, was there any preparation you needed to do before attending that very first weekend? Is there anything you need to do to get prepared?
Only read the book. So we had to read the book, and as far as I can remember, I think that was it. We had to read the book, and we had to fill in an intention setting. You have to help remind me what comes in at the beginning.
Yeah, and it's so great that you're remembering that. So for people that enroll far enough in advance, they can take advantage of what we call advanced standing to do a little bit of pre-work. So if they want to do that, it's optional. And if you do that, you just come a little bit more prepared, but it is optional. Not everybody takes advantage of that, and some people enroll too late so that they can't take advantage of advanced standing. So really, there's nothing that has to be done before you come to that very first weekend. But it sounds like you read Bruce's book, Energy Leadership, beforehand.
I read it kind of on the plane going in because I was also really busy. So it wasn't like, your question, to your point, Michael, it's not that you have loads and loads of stuff to do before you go.
Right.
And the book itself is pretty easy to get through. And but having said that, I read the book again after LPT because it had a lot more meaning for me then.
Yes.
So, yeah.
Yes. That's great. John is asking, how long did it take you to complete the program?
Just about a year, under a year, something like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Because when we finished module 3, I finished that I think in the October, and I think I took my exams after Christmas because I was, as a busy mom, I was really busy in the prep and the run up to Christmas. So it was a personal choice just to delay that a couple of months. So that pushed it to about a year. Yeah.
Which is nice because I think that speaks to the flexibility that you addressed earlier, right? If you need to push the pause button, you can. You know, you can finish the program in 7-8 months if you want to, but you can also pause button if you need to as well. So that's great.
Yes.
This is a great question, and I think you started to speak to this initially. Diana is asking, how do you explain the concept of energy to corporate business leaders? Because it can be a bit of a intangible concept. So how do you go about explaining that?
Okay, so it's, I mean, you don't have to use the word energy. Basically, you can talk about, you know, you can talk about behaviors as well. You can sort of translate that into different behaviors that show up for people. Everybody understands what a victim is, level 1. You know, you can relate it to emotions that are attached to the energy as well, and linking it with behaviors. And I think that's one of the best ways to do it. If people are a little bit have a bit of an allergy around energy, then I try to talk to it and translate it into the kind of behaviors that are showing up, and how is that conducive and how is that working out for them. And, you know, what would be another thing that they could do? How could we look at that from a different perspective? So again, you just utilize the models, which, you know, you can utilize the models to demonstrate the energy without actually having to talk about the energy, if that's what you prefer. Having said that, I will say this, that every time that I've spoken about the energy levels, everybody's always intrigued. As I said at the beginning, it's a bit of a new concept. People initially think it's all to do with the yoga and the chakra and everything like that. You have to explain that that's not what it's about. And I think what comes up in Bruce's book a lot as well, and this is where when you read the book and you read how he applies, and in the book he's talking also, he's in the corporate environment, and he's talking through the energy levels in a very practical way, demonstrating the behaviors and just asking people, how's that working out for you? And how could you do that differently? And what would you do differently if you could do it over again? And, you know, so you can do it in that way very, very easily. And the models help you to frame that up.
Yeah, that's a great answer, Deb. And I think that you're so right. The book, Energy Leadership, is a case study on how Bruce took this concept to a small failing company and turned it into a thriving company. And the languaging in that book, like you said, is a really great way to actually see how he explained it in a corporate setting as well. So, and I love your idea about behaviors, because, you know, it's just making it tangible for somebody in speaking their language, right? And you know, in your company setting, what might work, what might not play. But you're right, people are intrigued by this whole concept. So it's just a matter of explaining in a way that resonates with them.
Yes. And of course you introduce it as well. You talk about it in a way that you're saying, you know, people can feel like a victim, and you know, you introduce it and you say, well, let me tell you about, you know, what that looks like from an energetic perspective. And then you describe the energy level to them. And that also allows them, very often in my experience, it opens them up even more because it doesn't feel so personal. And that's the energy, coaching the energy.
Love it. Love it. We're getting another question from Jack asking, what were some of the ways you initially took these concepts back to corporate?
So I think one of the first things I did, so as I said before, I have quite a large team, and I started coaching my team. And another manager noticed some differences, and she said, oh, I hear you got your coaching. Would you mind coaching one of my members of one of my team? I'm having some difficulties there. And I said, yes, okay, that's fine. And then we were having some issues around just just some issues basically as a whole within the organization. And I was asked to come up with some ideas around how we could address those behaviors and how we could frame up what good looks like for the organization in terms of behaviors and values. So that was great. That just felt like a gift. So what I did was, the very first thing that I did, I developed a HR development program, which was rolled out globally. And what that did was that addressed values, strengths, and basically the whole concept was who am I, where am I now, and where do I want to go? Mm-hmm. And that was the first thing that I developed here in Shell. And the who am I is all around your values, your strengths. Where am I now is just where are they in terms of their competencies and the role that they're in today, and is that aligned with their values and their strengths? And if not, how could we align that even a little bit more? And where do you want to go? So people who were in a position at that moment in time who they felt they weren't getting anything out of it, they were just sort of on the treadmill doing anything, you start to have those conversations around, so where do you want to go? So look at your values, look at your strengths. How's that going to take you to where you want to go? And we developed this program, and it's online. People can do it themselves, and they can also do it with a coach or with their line manager. And that was rolled out globally throughout the HR organization, and it was a huge success. And that was the first thing that I did when I came back.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And you know what I love about that is when you ask somebody where they're at now and they identify those values and first, and then where are you? If there isn't alignment, it gives them that opportunity to make that change, right? But stay within the company. Maybe it's just doing a different role or doing something else within the company, right? To further align and increase their happiness.
Yeah. And the sort of the aha moments that came as a result of doing that for some people, that was quite significant.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Great answer. So let's see, we have a couple more questions coming in here. When and how did you decide coaching was your next life move? Is being asked of Shirley.
So the reason, Chris, who was my boss at that time, he saw me just coaching people, talking to people, mentoring people. And it was actually Chris who selected iPEC initially. Yeah, so he was the one who went out and said, and he took me along with him. So did I decide, or did the universe decide? And maybe that may be a bit hairy-fairy for some people, but I think I had a natural pull towards coaching and mentoring, but I'd never really I'd done a little bit here and there, read a few coaching books and things like that, but I'd never really got the foundation in order to really build upon it and to, also be creative with it and develop something of my own. I thought it was just something that was part of my character. So iPEC came along, and doing the program, that's when I decided. This is for me. And I tell you something funny as well. I do a lot of training, and one of the things was I thought in the beginning, well, maybe I won't coach, maybe I'll teach coaching, maybe I'll just teach others, yeah. But that soon withered away, and I just learned to love coaching, and it became part of my DNA. And I do it all the time. It's wherever you are, it just comes up. It's just part of who you are, and it's definitely something that will stay with me.
I love that you said that, Deb. It really does become part of who you are, right? It's not like you put your coaching hat off and then you take it off kind of thing. It really does become how you interact with people and such. It becomes part of your DNA.
Yes. It's not even possible to go back, I don't think.
I agree with you. It's changed forever, right?
Yeah.
That's great. We have, Bob is asking to share another example of how you used coaching skills in your workplace. Everybody really loved that first example. Can you give another?
Yes, absolutely. Another example was that I was asked to, I created some coaching labs, is what I call them. and they were kind of like little nuggets of coaching. And I took let's say the junior leads, the first time team leads, I took those. And I did these 2-day coaching labs. And what that was really just introducing I had to stick with some of the traditional coaching models that Shell also use, like, SEED and BIC and coaching for performance kind of thing. So I had to stick to a couple of those models in that coaching lab. But the funny thing was, so here's the thing, the first thing I was doing that was also in Krakow. And the VP who'd asked me to do these coaching labs as a result of what she'd observed about how I was working with my team and with others, she's Australian, but all the people that I was training there, they were all Polish. So I would never have known this if the VP had been Polish as well, because after the session, I went to get a coffee, and one of the team leads was in there talking to the VP, and it was kind of like, oh, the bit I loved the best was the bit about the energy, because that's new, and she really taught us something new, and it was so different, and it really resonated with me. And I showed them a couple of the models to work with their teams around managing underperformance. I mean, these are tricky conversations, managing underperformance or giving somebody a performance rating that they don't agree with. And for first-time leaders, this can be really, really challenging. And even though you get the training on how to do this emotionally, what it does with you, so teaching these new first-time team leads how to deal with emotions, not to be afraid of emotions, but listen to them because they're signals for the leader, and you can do something with that. And what are these signals telling you? So this was all part of the coaching lab. And that was another example where somebody just asked me to put something together because they saw the gap, they liked what I was doing, they liked how I was showing up, and they wanted to see more of that expressed across the wider leadership team.
Awesome. That's great. A lot of the questions coming in they're very, very curious in how you're applying these skills in your place of employment. And we have another question here coming in from Dennis saying, how do you use the coaching skills to manage really stressful situations in the workplace? Can you speak to that, please?
Oh, yeah. Stressful situations in the workplace. So our population is expatriates, and we would also manage, evacuations. When people are moving from one country to another, from one culture to another, with their whole family, they are very, very stressful situations. People are very sensitive. They can be perceived as being very demanding, but actually it's just a lot of fear there, really, about the unknown and what they're going into. Fear, excitement, the whole range of emotions, joy, everything that's in there. The coaching tools that you learn in iPEC really do help you to manage those situations. And maybe a good example might be, I'll share an example that somebody shared with me last week when I was in Krakow. So it was a new time team lead, and she had a promotion with a role within her team, which was a promotion. She had two people in her team who were both applying for this role. And obviously one person got it. The other person was very angry that she didn't get it. She'd expected to get it. And this new team lead was really experiencing a lot of pain trying to explain and trying to manage one of her team members through this recruitment process in which she hadn't been successful. And one of the great tools in iPEC is where, thoughts drive the emotion, and then they drive the action as well. And I was able to show, by using some of the iPEC tools, I was able to show the team lead, to really obviously acknowledge and validate where this person is, where they are in the moment. It's very disappointing. They've gone through this process. But, using some of the tools in iPEC around how you can move people forward, really by changing the thought, putting another thought in there, helping them to manage, acknowledging that emotion, but then just really asking them, what's the benefits of staying where you are right now, as opposed to really looking at the opportunity that's going to come your way eventually, because this other person, she was really very, very, very negative, or catabolic, as we would say, but very, very negative. And also going out there, talking to other people in the team, creating empathy from the other members of the team. And really this toxic atmosphere was beginning to evolve for this young team lead. So I went through some of these models with her, some of these coaching tools with her, and she was able to have a much more meaningful conversation with this employee. and she did manage to turn her around. And I think that's the beauty of the tools that you're going to learn through going through iPEC. So there are so many tools in there. You walk away with a nice toolbox, and every stressful situation is different. Sometimes all it takes is a bit of acknowledgement and validation for people, truly listening to people, just acknowledging and meeting them where they are, can take the stress out of a situation. And sometimes you have to shift.
You have a great job of helping to reframe the situation too, right? Because oftentimes people are just, like in that instance, this person is just upset that they didn't get the new opportunity, but what is the opportunity in staying where you're at? So let's focus and reshift our focus. And all of a sudden they have these aha moments. So that's great.
Right.
And I love that you said you do have this toolkit, because that is so true. You're going to have a bunch of tools, right? And you can pick and choose as you need them. In any situation. We're not the 10 steps of, these are always the 10 steps of coaching to follow, or the 10 techniques to always use. So I like the way you explained it that way. That's awesome. We have another question coming in for you, Deb, about how did you find some of your clients outside of work?
Okay, so a number of clients reached me through work, so that's fair to say. Outside of work, a friend of mine she's a lawyer. She does mediation, and she also handed a couple of clients to me. So she asked me to sort of coach a couple of people, particularly around where two families were coming together. So a couple were divorced. They were coming together. They both had children from their previous relationship, and we had this clash of cultures between two families. So, her kids would take their shoes and socks off at the door. His kids would run in with their muddy welly boots on. Yeah. How do you bring those two cultures together? So I got a couple of clients through a friend, another friend, and again, I don't have a website. I don't advertise. People will find you, and you may find that unbelievable. I know I did when people said that to me at the beginning, but it kind of just ripples out from there. And another friend of mine introduced a guy who was 30-something. He'd been in a relationship for a long time, wanted to end the relationship, but didn't know how, and kind of was a case of, should I stay or should I go kind of thing. So I coached him. He left. And the situation that he was in was having a knock-on effect on everything. Within 6 months, he ended his relationship in a good way. He had left his previous job. He had a new job. And he came around just the other day. He came around, brought me some flowers, and in his new job. And now he's asked me if I could coach him in leadership for his new role. And he's also asked if I would coach one of his friends who's got a similar issue with leaving his girlfriend. So that's how that works. And you do one, and then it just ripples out from there.
Yeah, I think you're so right. The referrals become a huge source of getting new clients. And even like you said, they will find you, right? And when people have gotten value from working with you, they're happy to say, work with my coach Deb, she's amazing. And then all of a sudden you're getting calls from people, you have no idea how they even found you.
And they come from the most bizarre places, because a yoga teacher, she's doing a yoga retreat in Spain, and she knows that I work around energy, and this yoga retreat is going to be for 3 days. Now I'm going to go for the yoga, but she said, hey Deb, would you mind doing a session on the energy coaching? Because it's kind of, so there you go. So I'm going to be doing a workshop in Spain in September on the energy coaching. And
did you need me to come with you, Deb?
There you go. I'll send you the invite.
But it's opportunities, right? It's
yes.
I'm sure you're going to do that workshop, and you will probably get a handful of people that say.
And there will be a handful of people there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
that's awesome.
yeah.
We have another question coming in from Scott, and he is asking, how important is it to really become a certified professional coach? If you really want to incorporate coaching or be a coach, a lot of people say it's unregulated. Do I really need to get certified? So can you speak to the value of actually going?
Right, yeah. It's definitely not the case in corporate, at least not here in Western Europe. You will need a certification if you want to sort of be whether that's right or wrong, I'll leave that in the middle, but you will need a certification if you want to work in corporate as a professional coach. Since getting that accreditation, as I said before, I was already coaching people. I was already mentoring people in the corporate world before I started iPEC. Having that professional certification has given credibility, to the work that I'm doing, and people see me differently, I think, because of that certification. But of course, added to that, you're able to articulate, you have the foundations, you walk the talk, you talk the lingo, you have the models. So you learn all of that along the way. But in corporate, yes, definitely, I would say so. And I think as well, so for example, I talked about my friend who's a lawyer. I think people who have gone to another professional for help, whether it's a lawyer in this case, or whether it's a therapist or something like that, they do look for that accreditation, I think. So yeah. And of course, it's also down to you as well. I mean, there are people, as you say, who coach and they don't have that accreditation, but you'd miss out on an awful lot, I think. If just as I talked before, the whole support you get from iPEC afterwards, and the alumni and the whole community that you're part of, which enriches you as a coach. And there are a lot of books out there, and there's a lot of self-learning, and you can learn things for yourself as well. But it's in bouncing those things off one another, bouncing it off professional coaches who are actively working in the coaching environment, whether it's in corporate or whether it's in their own businesses. They're growing as well as part of their clients, and you share all of that. So I would, let me put it this way, I feel I'm glad I did it, and I would recommend it hands down to anybody.
Yeah, I think you touched on a couple of really important points there, where you're not only getting the credibility, right? To say, well, I have great life experience, that's one thing. But to say I'm a certified professional coach, there's credibility in something that you bring to the table. And then you also shared that you've enhanced your skill set, your tools that you can use. That you're not just going through to say, well, I'm a certified coach. You actually have all of these other tools at your disposal that you're able to use. So I think that you touched on two important things there. The credibility piece, but you're also expanding your skill set, which is fantastic. Yeah. And we have a couple people asking the same question, so I'm going to pose it to you. Jackie and John both said, have you kept in touch with anybody from your classmate or your group that started their own coaching business, and were they successful? So have you kept in touch with people that did become entrepreneurs, and how's that going?
Yes. So my boss, he left Shell, and he has his own business. He has his own website. He has his own coaching business, and he's very successful in that. And he combines that with photography. So he does the two things together. He's a very creative soul. And another friend of mine who's going through the coaching program at the moment, who's a Polish lady, and I introduced her to iPEC. And she's left Shell as well. She's not quite finished. She's just on her Mod 3, and she has her business up and running. And in Poland, she's already creating events, network events. She did one, actually she's got one tonight, a leadership event for women in Poland, in Krakow tonight, where she's charging 25 zloty. She's got a lot of people coming to that event. She's going to introduce iPEC, and she's just taking her business off. And I think she got her first client just last week, and she's not even finished the training. She hasn't even taken the exam yet.
I love it. I love it. So it's nice because you knew people that came through the program that you went through with that wanted to take these concepts back to corporate, and then some that were wanting to be entrepreneurs. And it sounds like, the people have been successful on both fronts. So it's really where your passion is. Some people want to have their own business. Some people have no desire to have their own business. So it's really where your passion lies.
Yes. And it allows you a lot of flexibility, as I said, with Kus as well. Two of his passions, photography and coaching, and he's able to combine the two, leaving the corporate world behind and still earning a very, very good living.
Which is nice. And sometimes people look at it kind of as that next chapter. So some people do what you're doing and then say, but there are some possibilities here for the future as I look towards maybe that next chapter in those retirement years as well.
Yes, exactly.
My goodness, this time has gone by so fast. People have asked such great questions, and we're really just about done here. And you've been wonderful, Deb. Thank you so much for all the insights that you've shared. And you're so genuine and authentic. I so appreciate that. And If people are interested in contacting you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
They can drop you an email.
Perfect. Perfect. So what we'll do is we'll share the email, Deb's email contact information. So if you're interested in reaching out to her, please feel free to do so. And we'll have that in the chat box so that you can see that. I wanted to share just a little bit of great news. Just in closing here, I don't know if everybody knows this, but it is iPEC's 20th anniversary. And our mission has always been to change the world one person at a time. And in honor of our anniversary, for people that are enrolling with us in this upcoming session, which we still have time to get you into our July classes, we are actually extending our early enrollment reductions from May into June and July. So you can get $300 off for early enrollment if you're wanting to enroll. So there's no time like the present if you've decided you want to join us. Also, if you enroll by next Friday, that's June 14th, there is the ability to do, like Deb had mentioned, she did the pre-work, that advanced standing. So it's the ability to do a few assignments ahead of time. If you turn them in before you get started in July, you actually get a $200 rebate back. So it's just another way to do a little bit of savings. And for people that are excited to get started, they can get started sooner rather than later. So enrolling this month, there's $500 worth of savings on the table. So if you're interested, feel free to reach out to your admissions coach. If you don't already have an admissions coach, you can call into our line and ask to speak to an admissions coach like myself. There are a bunch of us here to help you, okay? And I know that there are a few of you that might be on the fence saying, gosh, it sounds great, but I'm not sure I'm ready to jump in with both feet. So if you're somebody that wants to taste it and see first, we do offer that very first weekend. Exactly what you did, Deb. You didn't sign up for the whole program straight away. You did the first weekend, and that's called LPT. Typically, the tuition for LTP is, or LPT is $19.95. But again, because of our anniversary, we're offering that for $14.95. So if that's something that might be an option for you, talk to your admissions coach to see what makes the most sense. And again, if you're not working with somebody, we're happy to assign you one of our admissions coaches. So a great big thank you to you, Deb, for all the information.
My pleasure.
It was just a delight talking to you and hearing about your experiences. We thank you all for participating in this this session, and thank you for all the thoughtful questions. And we hope to see you soon. Thank you so much, and have a wonderful day. Take care.
Thank you. Good night. Bye.
Bye.